The fourth stage in ITSM Express is called Respond, and this is the daily operational things that we do to support the users who actually use the service and get value out of it. So that's why that's important. This is normal daily work. It's about being able there for the users to contact, doing their stuff, communicating back to them, and this includes, of course, the idea of the service desk, a centralized place to get the support in a simple way, as well as then doing the day-to-day job behind it. Service desk has been invented for a reason. It has been invented to make users' life easy. Compared to all those hundreds of different kind of channels, which most of them get no action on, it's much more easier to have a single channels to single place in all kind of questions. And if there is a guidance and solution for things, get it immediately. So that is the best for the user and the best for the overall organization. So service desk is a great invention for the users. Second reason is that IT professionals have lots to do, and it's best use of their time to focus on unique things, probably development, maintenance, and not to repeat the same things over and over again. It's about that they will not be stopped by their work by the end users directly, or secondly, that they don't need to repeat the solution itself, even though the question would come through the service desk. So if they are able to provide the answers to service desk so that they can assist the users, they can focus on those questions uh, on service desk and do the rest of their work, some probably more meaningful work of new things. And from the service owner perspective, it's one easy way to get information what is happening around the services, because the service desk usually logs all communication. So if you want to know that what did the users ask, then the service desk and the related ticketing is probably the best source of truth. And of course, There are certain things that users will ask, like ask for access rights. That's completely normal activity. But the better the service owner understands that what are the questions that users face, the better they can be proactively solved so that the users don't actually never face the situation. Or second best solution, that there is a proper guidance for the users as well as the service desk in place. So in that sense, the service desk is a great invention, and that's why it has been the de facto way to organize support in the last 20 years. Nowadays, everybody's talking about the AI and chatbots and all that kind of automation and all those kind of trendy words. And yes, it's true that the environment will evolve. But the last thing evolving are the people. And that means that as long as there are people, they have the need to get the support, and relevant way to give the support is the service desk. Of course, the users will also get familiar with to use the tools. So therefore, this kind of using a chatbot to help themselves might be a way to bypass or not to use people in the service desk, but share the same information to users as the service desk would be giving. That's one option where the direction is going. But of course, there are many things that the users will ask the first time in history, so there are no answers. So therefore, eventually, something like a service desk is needed also in the future. Put the service desk in or essential pieces. The first idea is to support the users and give them some what they need. And if the services cannot give them what the users need, they can direct the issue in the right place without, and that solves the simplicity, complexity issue that there are eventually hundreds of different kind of parties doing IT work, and cannot know which one them to contact and how. So therefore, service desk acts as that knowledge who does what. And it's intended also to give feedback whether something is not working. It's intended to give status updates in the language that the users can understand. If there are predefined guidance, it can restore the service, for example, workstation related issues. And of course, share the knowledge that they have or exist in the organization and redirect the request to third parties, as stated already before. The value and the benefits from the service desk come from the simplicity for the users. This is not something to be underestimated. People using IT, they have a lot of things in their mind and a real job to be done. So learning different kind of channels for different kind of purposes is not the job. It's not about making things easy and plausible for them. It's often if the organization for some reason hasn't have a culture of logging things for routing and gathering knowledge what has happened, it's a great place to start. And that is also needed for the quality management purposes. So even though it's a nowadays practice everywhere to do issues with tickets, well, service desk has been the place where it has usually started. And the created knowledge which with services can be ensured that might exist, then it can be used to identify improvement ideas within the services, looking at all the incidents, which services are most affected and what's the nature of those incidents might point the root causes. And they are usually something that you promise the customer something about, like how will the incidents or service request be handled, and this creates both the evidence of such actions as well as their performance. So it's a relevant way to gather knowledge what actually happens in the service and a great source for continual improvement. If the process is considered to be a series of activities, well, these are the things that approximately happen, not necessarily in certain order. But yes, the work that the service desk does is to record the queries. If the users contact through phone, the service desk will log an incident or service request. Or of course, yeah, the issues can come to service desk so that user use some self-service portal and does the logging. But anyway, after that one, the next thing is to classify it. First question is that what service is this question about, and the second one is that what is the related priority. And after that one, service desk reads it through in detail and compares that to knowledge that they have. And if they have the knowledge to solve the issue, they will solve it. If they for some reason there's the solving is on hold, they will inform both the user and other stakeholders. That is also the fact that quite often the communication to users in cases of major incidents forming service outages, that might go through the head of the service desk. And eventually they will give collect the feedback the customers that will give when interacting with the service desk. If needed, they will redirect the question to the third parties, and eventually, if the request comes back to them, that is one practice in some organizations. They will ensure that the documentation exists for continual improvement and other purposes. In case you have small service desk, then they might have some other dedicated jobs like to do the monitoring related on services because they are always there. Back in the days they were doing backups and other operational support activities, though nowadays many of these kind of operational activities that were supplementary work to service desk 10 years back are already automated. The backups are done in the cloud automatically, and the similar kind of thing approach to other operational activities. So service desk is practically a group of people that can be contacted through various channels, chat, phone, email, self-service portals. And one perspective to the service desk is to think about the question to which it is solution, meaning the end user related simple communication. Anyway, it has been done for 20 years, and we have a lot of good examples and we have a lot of bad examples. Or, in general, the service desk have been good and providing value, but you can always do it better. So therefore, one of the things that there has been during the times is that service desk doesn't understand the user's life, meaning that they have when user reports that printing doesn't work, the service desk doesn't have the understanding that what might be the role of the printing of the business process. Like for example, if you're running a warehouse and you need to print out the list of goods before a truck can leave. So if you cannot print them out, then the trucks cannot leave, and then the whole complete warehouse will go into stop. So it's a kind of thing that if you're just an first job as a service desk and with no introduction, I don't blame you if you don't understand it to ask that what you are trying to do with the printing would make a difference. So therefore, it's a very important to train the business context for the service desk personnel, so they have the understanding to identify the nuances and the important stuff from the non-important or busy stuff. But that kind of training and introduction, that is the job of the head of the service desk and everybody else. The second one is that do they have the relevant information? I mean, if you're having a 10,000 person organization, you will have about 600 services, and they are all with the old local name and history. And if you don't have them in a service portfolio with the systematic naming and descriptions, it's completely impossible for the service desk to make any sense of that one. And if you don't have that service portfolio information, then you cannot attach the related knowledge in the right context. So therefore, you need to have the portfolio, you need to have the knowledge, preferably in the ITSM tool context, and usable and findable through that one. And that is again something that enables the service desk to work. Luckily, current tools by default do that one. So I wouldn't call it a tool issue, I would call it organizational maturity issue. The third one is then the technical understanding. Quite many of the things that come into services are eventually about workstations and user accounts. So, and if you don't know how Windows works, or if you don't know what Active Directory is, then even though you would be very empathetic, the job just doesn't get done. And eventually, the measurement for good service desk is that, and it's a common success, not just a service desk, is that does the user's job get done? And for that one, you practically need technical skills in the IT context. But you don't need to be the expert. You need to have the basics, but still focus on that area too. And the second part is the last one is the non-technical part, meaning that if you're too IT oriented, you might go with your voice and your way of communicating, you might be telling the calling user that his call is the incident, not the issue that the user is facing. So therefore, try to think from the customer perspective, what does a good look like? What does a professional look like? What does a problem solving kind of look like? So hope you are good with the service desk agent, good with people and has a logical way to approach things. And of course, my final advice is that if you're unable to do it anything about technically, please at least show empathy. That makes people feel good, and that's the easiest way. You can always make people feel good, even though you cannot help them technically. So yeah, so to pick up that one, proper training, proper introduction, so they are in the first job and might be have a short life cycle in the service desk. But try to do that one. There are very good ways to do it nowadays. And then offer them proper tools and proper information. The first to identify what the service is the question about, and second to find the guidance. So then you can actually do it. And it's also after you have that one, then you can also consider that will you push the information and some of that one towards the users together with the tools if they are ready for such move. We already talked about measurements, and with the measurements we talked about that measure the outcomes. What does a good look like? Is the customer getting something out of this? And an example of this one in the context of service desk is that are the channels easily reachable? Are they communicated enough? Are they easily to be found from introduction material, intranet, and so on? It's quite common to ask that were you satisfied with the solution or satisfied with the way that you were getting the solution. So you will ask about the quality and the speed issues, that in this case was the quality enough, or in this case was the resolution speed enough. And these are all also outcome-based measures. And it might be also about feeling. And of course, try to ask simple questions. People have time to answer that one, and focus on relevant one. You may ask all of these ones, but then the response rate might drop. So they're all very good. And my favorite question is that how much did you lose work time because of this issue? Because that's a good measurement for optimizing things, and it also includes that not all things that users report are need to be solved immediately. Now that was from user perspective, the measure of success, and then you may have internal goals. Quite common ones is that how long does it mean for you to read the question? So this kind of response time. And any one of these timings you will actually set up as the target, you will get exactly that one. But there's a point that you should read them first to identify the important ones. So that's the rationale for responding. I personally like the lead time because that tells overall success of things. It also drives people to contact other people to get the support for the user faster. And the less you have open issues, the less you have effort in maintaining the starting and stopping with them. So I take the lead time, and I have done personally in an organization that the clock never stops. And if you set a 90% target rate with the clock never stops, then it positively drives to be able to find the solutions now fast. The first call resolution rate, it's about do the service desk have the knowledge and the skills to help the users? It might be handy in the beginning or in some stage, but on the other hand, if you analyze the calls very well, you remove the root causes and you inform the users, then all of these kind of reoccurring easy things go away and only the difficult ones get left behind. So then the rate will significantly drop even though things are better than they were before. So therefore, I personally don't like this measurement, though I understand why it is very common. And then there are a number of calls and number of time, and I never been in the service desk to know that what they are getting out of this one. I guess they want all the agents to be active and do good work, but all of these have the downside of skipping things. I mean, I take all the easy ones, or I will cheat the clock, or whatever. So if people don't want to do the good work, they will always find a way to manipulate these figures. But usually the reopening by user is a good measure because user doesn't reopen the ticket unless it really needs to. But So that's a good metric. I would follow that one up because it also shows not about just the SLA but also about the knowledge gap and what was the rationale why we considered it to be solved even though user did not. Even though quite many cases user opens the same case for another reason, but still. And of course, the way to bypass that figure is to establish a new ticket. Even though customer opens the old one, you just make a new one and start with that one and clock starts from zero. So this points out there are good to have some measures, something to follow up, but also notice that especially if you're talking about external commercial service desk as they usually are. So if you're gonna punish them from numbers, they will ensure that the numbers are fine. Altogether, Service Desk is a great invention. I hope you contribute to Service Desk as an expert, first of all, by keeping the product and the service in good shape so you don't have incidents. Secondly, communicating and training the users how to use the service. And third, with that one, provide Service Desk enough knowledge about your service so they can identify the service, possibly help the user with the service, or at least direct the question to you correctly.